Hi, peeps. Welcome back to another episode of the Unmothered Podcast. And I think you're going to enjoy this one this time. Well, maybe it's just me because I just got done binging Gilmore Girls on Netflix. They put the whole series on, and then they ended the series after 7 seasons. And then they picked back up on it, like, I want to say close to 10 years later. So it went into the future of the premise of the show. Let me just start with the premise of the show. It's about a mother, a daughter, and a granddaughter, and the dynamics of that mothering relationship or unmothered relationship. This show was, it's one of my girls and I's favorite when they were growing up, which, by the way, it was one of my husband's least favorite shows that we would watch because he hated the way these girls talked so fast. So they had this banter, the mom daughter of the second generation. So it's actually the daughter, granddaughter. So Lorelai Gilmore is the mother to Rory Gilmore, which Rory's name is actually Lorelai, but we call her Rory. And Lorelai's mom, which is the grandmother, is named Emily. So it's the Gilmore Girls, and it's about this whole relationship and dynamic between the three of them and why. So when my girls were growing up, we loved watching this show, and it's so funny how, let me just say, the dynamics of this show are explosive in each episode between these women. But I didn't look at it through that lens when I was watching this show because I hadn't done any personal work in the form of therapy or looking at, I was digging in a little bit, but I didn't really delve into the dynamics and really look at this relationship in the right way when I watched it with my girls years ago, because now it's been like 20 years or something like that. And when I started watching it this time around, I was like, oh wow, I'm seeing some different sides to this. So the episode title is, Are You an Emily, a Lorelai, or a Rory Gilmore, that is. And I want to explore the relationship between these three women because I think it shows the epitome of how we mother or how we don't mother our children. And the struggle is palatable when you feel like you're in this conversation that you shouldn't be watching. You can watch just by, these actors were so good in their roles. You could see the expressions on their face of what they really wanted to say and who they really wanted to be and how they just couldn't get there. The question becomes, can these two women come to an agreement and in love take care of Rory with this commonality that they have of everybody wants the best thing for everybody, but they go about it in these weird ways. And then there's the grandfather, Lorelai's dad, Richard. And is Lorelai's dad the glue that sticks them and makes them come all together, or is he part of the problem too? So many things. So I was just fascinated with this show. I couldn't wait to watch it again. And like after you get done with a series of something and a few years have gone by and then 10 years have gone by, you forget about all the things that happen. So I'm watching this show and my daughter came in one day, Dominique, and she's like, oh, I just finished watching, the whole season, all the seasons of this too. And I said, gosh, I didn't know that such and such this happened over here. And she goes, Mom, you've seen this show. And I said, yeah, but I forgot that these things happen. And now I'm looking at it through, a trauma-informed lens. As a coach, I'm looking at the way they communicate, the way they don't communicate, the things that they do without permission that create such a dynamic of exactly what this podcast is about being unmothered. Like, you're not realizing that the things that we do are can be damaging to our children's future. So let me just tell you about the premise of the show, and then we'll get into the dynamics between these women. So Lorelai Gilmore is kind of the star of the show. She came from an extremely wealthy family, which is Emily and Richard Gilmore, and she got pregnant at 16. Now, of course, when you come from especially a family of wealth, maybe a family that is like very high up in the Christian community, like does all the right things, and you want the best for your child. Her mom and dad were mortified that this girl had become pregnant. But when you look back at when they show the back episodes, this girl was always on the edge. Like she was just that girl. She was that teenage girl that was always on the edge, and they didn't know how to handle her. They didn't know what to do with her. And so everything gets covered up with money. They just keep going along trying to get her through adulthood, get her into adulthood. So she gets pregnant at 16, and I can't remember now if Christopher, the boyfriend, wanted to marry her or not. I don't think he did. I think his parents were just like extremely mortified also and blaming Lorelai. So everything, which this is so common too. Every time a teenage girl gets pregnant, it always falls on the girl and her family. Like men can walk away because they're not carrying the baby. They may have a financial obligation, but when you look at the nut and bolts of a teen pregnancy, it falls on the girl. The girl gets shamed. The girl has to carry the baby, walking around feeling shamed because her belly is growing. She usually can't finish school. Her whole life turns upside down. Her parents are embarrassed. People are talking about her. No one really talks about the guy. No one does. So here we are, this wealthy family, completely shamed, and then his parents are shaming her, saying this is all your fault. You did this. So she's not feeling supported. Her parents did not handle this well, and through no fault of their own, listen, they didn't know. And so they are like, you have to marry this guy. You have to marry him. Like this, we can't be shamed in this family. Well, she doesn't want to. She's 16. She doesn't even know what love is. She's just, this thing happened and now she's in this spot. So she runs away from home and she decides to create her own life with her baby, who becomes Rory, which this shows the immaturity of Lorelai. She named her baby Lorelai after herself, which is such a 16-year-old thing to do, unless you are like very attached to this family name, whatever. But I think, I'm writing my own synopsis of this, but I think it's her immaturity that shows through, that she's like, she's going to be my little dolly and we're just going to have so much fun and I'm going to be such a different kind of mom. And that's exactly what she does. And so she names her baby Lorelai, but she nicknames her Rory. And so Rory becomes the example of like how Lorelai is going to raise this child and raise her differently and make her, just this brilliant person, and she's going to be my best friend because I didn't have that with my mom. So this poor child had a label and a job put on her from the day she was born. Her mom had determined, we are going to be friends. We are not going to have the same relationship as my mom and I. And I get that because that's how I was too. I was like, my kid, I never wanted to be my kid's best friend. I always wanted to be a mom. But I remember thinking like, I have to have this different relationship with my girls. I cannot, it would kill me if my girls grew up and decided they didn't love me. And maybe it wasn't about the alcoholism and all the other things that my mom went through that didn't draw us closer together. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it was, there was just something that we couldn't do as a family and can never do. So there's a fear there. And so when this story starts, Rory is now entering high school, but her mom realizes Rory is extremely smart, but also a perfectionist and I would say has a high level of anxiety over this. So did this start from her mom, or was this just the way she was? Like, there's a lot of questions there, but you see it right away where she's making lists and she has to, and everything has to be in a row. And here's where her mom doesn't know how to handle this kind of thing, is that her mom encourages this because she thinks, oh my gosh, I'm raising this beautiful, intelligent, smart girl, that they have this banter that they do back and forth. They tease everybody. They have this secret language, that only they understand. Everybody's like, what are they talking about? And they laugh and they have fun. They eat junk food. This is the biggest thing. They eat junk food like it is vegetables. They don't eat vegetables. They eat junk food like it's coming out of everywhere. And they eat it in multiple levels. They'll have red vines with a hamburger, with some tater tots, with a Pop-Tart. They do these weird things. And again, shows her immaturity that she's not teaching her daughter good habits. She's telling her, we can do whatever we want because we're just going to have fun. I'm the fun mom. And it seems fun. And I remember thinking, like, when I first watched it, how fun that seemed. And then I watched it back this time and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's really not teaching her daughter good habits. And so they just get along. They don't fight. They talk everything out. It's great. And then it comes to a place where Rory wants to go to this private high school because her dream is to go to Harvard. It's been her dream since she was probably 8 years old, 6 years old. It's her dream. And the only way she can get there is to go to this private school. But of course, Lorelai, she's a manager at an inn. She can't afford the prices of a private school. But guess who can? Her parents. And so she has to go to Richard and Emily and say, I've never asked you for anything, which is very honorable. I mean, kudos to her for being a single mom and raising her daughter well and doing it on her own. She tends to forget she comes from money. So she very much separates herself from that until it comes to this point. And then she goes kind of groveling back and says, I don't want anything for myself, but I know you love Rory and this is what she wants. And this is, what I would like to do so that she could get into Harvard. Because if this school's name is on her resume, then, or her application or what, I didn't go to college, so I don't know what those things are, showing my immaturity. And so she needs that name of this school on there so she can have more of an in. It's not a guarantee, but more of an in. Also, her last name is Gilmore, which plays a part. People, like I said, these people are extremely wealthy. They're not just well-to-do, they're extremely wealthy. The precipice of the show is then the parents say yes with a condition. The mother says, we will give you the money. We'll write you a check, or we'll write a check to the school every month on the condition that you and Rory come to dinner at our house every Friday night, which just, it's just like, no, I haven't talked to you people in so long. I have lived my life by myself, raising my daughter. I don't need your help. And so this just becomes this aerial acrobat of like conversations between all of them. But she ends up saying yes because she needs this money and she will do anything for her daughter, which all of us would. We would do anything for our children, right? And so she's like, what can it hurt? She knows what's going to happen because she knows her parents. Rory, on the other hand, doesn't know because she hasn't really been around her grandparents that much. And so she's kind of excited. She's like, that's not a big deal. We can do that. But as they soon see, every turn when they go to dinner, it's like the mother keeps manipulating these things. And because she can cover it with money, she just moves forward with things. So if you would ask me at this point, like, whose team are you on? Lorelai, Rory's, Emily's, I would say none of them because I can see faults in all of them. So here's what Emily does, the grandmother. Emily will make plans behind Lorelai's back, cover it with money and prestige, and call it a day. Because she knows this is going to make her daughter mad, and she doesn't care. And she also thinks that she is right. She's a right fighter to the bone. And so she will do whatever it takes to make it right on all counts. She will just bypass Lorelai. She'll even bypass Rory if she thinks that she's right and she's going to do something great. She's just going to throw money at it, make it happen, and then say, well, you should thank me because look what I did. Look what I did for you. And she honestly thinks that she's doing a good thing because she does love Rory. She does love Lorelai. She has no idea how to talk to this woman, who is her daughter and a strong-willed one at that. But Lorelai is no better because Lorelai is a horrible communicator. She covers everything up by a joke. She talks faster than anyone can pay attention to. So she scrambles their brain where they're like, okay, great. We don't even know what you said. Just, all right, go ahead, do it. And then that's how she wins. And she refuses help even when she knows she needs it. Wow. How many times do we do that out of our own pride? And, there's a kind of a commonality in this show too, is that a few times religion is being brought up and they're like, we don't believe in that, do we? No, we don't. I don't know what we believe in. And it's like, yeah, it shows because you don't take a stand for anything. You don't know right from wrong really in a moralistic bent because you selfishly do things through your pride. And that's one thing that when God enters in, he will cut that pride in half and he will tell you confidence is one thing, pride is a whole nother. And so he will humble you and make you realize there is a bigger play here than just you. And through these episodes, you see this and you kind of see over the years how Lorelai starts to see this. Her mom starts to see it, that even when they wanted all the control in the world, life will hit you between the eyes. You have no control. You don't have total control. This whole situation just keeps coming to a head where, every week they're coming to this family dinner and all these things are happening behind the scenes. And it shows first there's this huge bond between Lorelai and Rory, how they're against the grandmother and grandfather. They love them, but we're a team and we're going to do this together. Over the years, you start to see the cracks between Lorelai and Rory because as anyone knows who is a mom, you can't control everything. Even if your daughter is like, we don't argue, we're best friends, blah, blah, blah. You're going to start seeing things that they have to go through. They have to go through their own journey and you start seeing cracks in that. And there's nothing you can do about it because they have to go through this struggle. So we start watching her daughter go through these struggles in relationships, but then we realize, well, of course she's going through these struggles because we watch Lorelai never make a commitment to any man. There's a few men that she falls in love with, even says yes to their marriage proposals, but she can never hold a relationship firm. What is that about? And so her daughter is witnessing this. So when her daughter starts kind of wavering in these relationships and making bad decisions, her mom's like, wait, that's not in the plan. I don't want you to be like me. And I'm like, but that's what you've modeled for her. And so now we're throwing in not only just the dynamics between mother and daughter, but now you're seeing the dynamics between mother and daughter in love relationships with people that they're falling in love with and how they play that out. So there is in the middle of this, or more towards the end, there's a blow up between Lorelai and Rory, which they never fight. But this is a huge deal in their relationship and it involves other people. And I would love for you to watch the show. I don't want to take anything away. But they come to this place where Lorelai realizes, I have to pull back from my daughter. I'm too involved in her life. And also she has to play this journey out. I cannot help her through it, which is a really smart move. But then Rory's grandfather gets involved. He's the head of the family, but we see his great love for his daughter and granddaughter, and it is sweet. And he's stuck between his wife, Emily, and his daughter, Lorelai. And so he puts down the gauntlet when he feels the need to. So he's kind of the fourth wheel in this story. So it's really between the three women, but it becomes a little bit more about him towards the end. So what did I learn from these lessons watching this show and the mother-daughter dynamic? Well, let me tell you, I cried through a lot of them because some of these scenes were so raw and real, and it really touched me. One of the things I loved about this show is that it was messy, and it actually shows us how hard it is to communicate with our daughters, even when we think that we want the best for them. And here's my 2 cents. Lorelai can be commended for making it on her own at such a young age and raising Rory. Like, kudos to her, but she's very immature. She wants to have fun all the time. And while there is a lot of laughs, I'd have to say she didn't teach her daughter how to handle failures well. Because Rory was so intelligent, she just went with that. And I just look at that and I was screaming at the screen saying, like, you need to show her she's going to fail. She cannot be good at everything. And it is something that kind of came up later on in the episodes where she realized, like, her daughter was so smart. She just thought she was going to bypass life and not have to deal with failure. And that just isn't true. And also, Lorelai doesn't deal with failure well, so she didn't know how to teach her daughter how to do that. Rory struggles with day-to-day living. She has lists and lists and lists of things, the pros and cons. That's her pros and cons list is a big thing on the show. And we can really damage our daughters by only throwing out good things for them. And this is a mistake that I tried doing. I wanted to cover all the bases. I didn't want my girls going through any kind of struggle. And then I realized they're going to go through a struggle and it's going to be different than what I look like the struggle I went through, because our life experience is different. Like, they're not growing up with the same kind of mom that I grew up with, but life is still life, and you're going to have to go through life struggles. And so if you don't teach your daughter how to do that well, how to survive through a failure, not survive, I don't think that's a good word, but like, really walk through a failure and I guess survive through it. But, just get to a place where you can say, okay, I made it through that time. And what did I learn from that? And you know what? I'm still standing, so it's okay. When you don't teach your daughters that and you just only teach them the good things, then you're doing them a disservice, because at some point there's going to be this really hard time that they're going to have to go through, and they need to know that they can go through it. They don't need it with just your help. They have to do it on their own, and then you can be waiting in the wings when they're ready to come to you and say, Mom, I need a hug, or can we just talk about this? That's great. But most of the time in the beginning, they have to go through this themselves. I think we just need to help them make it be okay with failure and be strong enough to start over. So the grandmother, Emily, she loves control and has to be right. But deep down, this is what I saw now watching this show over. I think she feels like a failure as a mom because her daughter got pregnant as a teen. And her way of communication is trying to get back to being right and having her daughter and granddaughter toe the line. So the problem with this is that it creates such an anger and it pulls everybody apart. So what Emily wants is for the girls to be close to her, but she's doing everything to get the opposite effect. So the biggest takeaway from this is that no one is listening to anyone. Everybody wants to be right. Everyone is stubborn. Everyone is in their own little box. And no one is really taking the time to listen instead of react. They are all reactors. Whether they react in numbness, Lorelai will shut down. Emily will strike out. And Rory is just stuck saying, I don't even know what I feel because all my mom wanted me to feel was happiness. And that's not a good reaction either. So one of my favorite scenes is the very last episode where the girls are totally grown up. So this is later on. They did a whole new arc, 6 more episodes or something, like 10 years after. So now Rory had gone on. She actually ended up going to Yale. There's a whole backstory with that. And then she graduated and was going to be this big time reporter, but it wasn't really working out. So we come back to the story. She's now 33 years old, I think. And she can't find a regular job. I'll say it the best I can. She's traveling all over the world. She's doing little jobs here and there. She doesn't even have an apartment. So this girl that had lists and lists of how she wanted her life, tacked out, like A to Z. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what I'm going to do. She was, again, her mom didn't prepare her. Like, life is not in a straight line. You don't get to just pick and choose and decide this is what you're going to do at this age. And this is the kind of job I'm going to get. And this is how much money I'm going to make. And this is how you can have goals, but you can't hold to those goals that tightly. And so now she's just wandering around, can't find a regular job. And so towards the end, she decided, I'm going to write a memoir because the story of my life with my mom and grandmother, that's a huge story. And I'm like, yes, girl, it's called Unmothered. And so she called it the Gilmore Girls. She is just trying to find her own way. And mother, daughter, and granddaughter are finally starting to understand each other. And I will just tell you this little tidbit, the grandfather passes. And so this is kind of bringing them all together because now they don't have the matriarch of the family, the powerhouse of the family to fall back on or have him, call a truce or whatever. It's like now the women have to deal with each other and they're feeling the effects of that. So all this to say, mother-daughter relationships are just the most complicated, joyous, and at times the most heartbreaking relationship you will ever have. The only way to have a good relationship with your daughter or daughters is to have hard conversations and keep in mind the other person's feelings through it all. There's no perfect relationship because at times you're going to butt heads with your girls. But if you have upheld good communication skills, you're going to get through it. I thank the Gilmore Girls for helping me out with my own daughters and for learning what not to do at times through their storylines. But also, I just thank this show because it walked me down memory lane of my girls and I sitting on the couch and watching this show, and was kind of like a little tradition. And my husband going, "Oh, that show is horrible. They talk too fast. I don't understand what's going on." And we're like, "It's girl talk. We love it." And we were eating junk food on the couch while we were watching this show too. And so I think, if anything, it just takes away how dynamic and complicated the mother-daughter relationship is, but also how worth it is, because there's something so special about a mother-daughter relationship, even through the hard. And I hope that you are having that kind of relationship with your girls. I know I'm having a sweet spot relationship with my girls now that they're in their 30s, which is so ironic that I was watching this and Rory was in her 30s and it's the same age my oldest daughter is now. And just looking back and thinking like how sweet and all the stuff we've gone through, how sweet our relationships are with my two girls. And I'm just so grateful for them. And so anyway, I hope this episode gave you a little food for thought. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.